Yes, my people, what you man telling me? So I'm currently on AU, just another forex pair, and price is currently bearish based off my estimates because we're beneath it. However, as I said, when I'm first looking at the charts, I wanna make sure I mark up my most recent zone. So we have a zone here, and it is a bearish zone where now this is my MSB, and we're pretty much trading from this high to the week low once we actually get one. However, if you look very carefully and I look at my previous zone, if I draw up my box from the low to the high, price does not tap the 50%. So this is still a unmitigated zone. And it's actually a overlapping zone because it's a zone within our zone. So you gotta be very careful when you're now trying to use this red zone by itself, understanding that there's a zone within it or that there's a zone right above it where a price could sweep those protected highs. And then now you're thinking like, how come I got cooked? But in reality, all you done is just set yourself up because you understand that price moves off what? Supply and demand, imbalances, and liquidity. So your stop was an area of liquidity. Price tapped into a what? An area of supply and demand, or even a potential imbalance. And what started to happen? Price started to distribute lower. So if we just clear the charts one more time, so we are now working with this MSB, and then within this MSB, if we let price play out, because sometimes we do respect these zones. Okay, so perfect. So it looks like we've swept. And so we have our MSB, prices below the SMAs. We have our areas of interest. So we have this area of supply and demand. I'm gonna use SNDR. It's not an SNDR, but it's an area of supply and demand. And then I'll say that's my unmitigated move region. So this is an area of supply and demand. I might as well add the text for that. Yeah, so this is an area of supply and demand. The price may want to tap into here and then continue lower. We did have price react off this wick fractal over here, this wick by wick. And yes, we did have a distribution lower where we took our previous lower lows. However, we just did not mitigate the 50% from this high to the low. So there's also a chance that price may sweep us before continuing low. So now, in terms of SBS, this is the one, which is the tap back out of the zone. Two to tap back in. Three is the lower low. You guys already know that my one, two, and three. Two should be the highest point between my one and three. Price is now swept some sort of liquidity where now this is my four. And now I'm looking for the entry confirmation where I can now potentially get my five. So we now have our SBS, price is bearish, SMAs are bearish, um, and it's looking like a potential decent trade. So we can see that price now wicks the 618 ever so lovely. And then now this is your potential entry model. Stop at that high and you're targeting your previous lower low. This is all mechanical. You can't try and fix it or do this or do that. This is fully mechanical. Stoic done it like this for a reason, where you don't have to think or guess whether you're gonna try and get in. You're either in or you're out. And this is based off the golden SBS or golden fib. But if we now head over to our 1 minute and see what price is doing based on the lower time frame, then pretty much this is a internal MSB. And then now I pretty much need for price to take out these lows before I start to entertain any sort of trade. Price is taking forever. Okay, oopsie. So we've now taken out those lows, and then now it's just about waiting and seeing what price wants to do next. So now you're gonna wait for potential confirm flip. You're gonna might wait for internal SBS. You might wait for price to happen to an area of interest, and then you might start looking for a trade based off your lower time frame. But if I head over back to my 5 minute, we can already see that price is now taking out my previous lower low. So it goes back to me saying again, like sometimes you're not gonna catch those lower time frame trades, and you are going to have to accept that. Um, there is nothing that you can do, and if you look closely, there is an area of support and resistance. So price bounced at this level numerous times, and we finally headed lower. And if I drag this across, you can see that this now becomes not just any random level of support and resistance, but it becomes a influential. It now becomes an influential one. Because if I keep dragging it across, we can see how that area of support and resistance is not a random area. So yeah, so you can also use that as an extra confluence where price rejected off that level, and then now price wants to potentially head lower, and we've now taken out our previous lower low. Price tapped into an area of supply and demand, and price now headed lower. So in terms of you trying to take this trade, again, this is another lovely setup where this could have been something that you'd have potentially participated in. And you may not get a trade based off your lower time frame, but as I said, it is what it is. You'll soon find out which are your favorite entry models. But until then, I've got to kind of show you everything, the pros and the cons. But as I always say, victory belongs to the most tenacious. And wherever in the world I'm saying is a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, and a good night. And I'll see you lots in the next video. Peace and ciao.